From the below illustration, find the distance between the building and the parking space if the elevation of the parking space is 403.5 feet and the floor elevation of the building is 419 feet. Round your answer to one decimal place. Let's go ahead and highlight some of the important information here. We want to find the distance between the building and the parking space, and that's this distance x right here. We want to find this slope distance. We know that the elevation of a parking space is 403.5, and so that's the elevation right here, elevation above sea level, I guess, and that is 403.5 feet. And then the elevation of the floor elevation of the building is 419 feet. That's this elevation right here. We bring that over, and that is 419 feet. If we go ahead and we want to find this distance, right, because we need this dimension on our triangle. We know that this dimension is 25 feet, so we need the vertical dimension. So we do that subtraction, and we end up with 15.5 feet. So now we can take that and we can sort of sketch ourselves up a little right triangle. We've got 25, 15.5, and x, or sometimes we call this the hypotenuse, c, in a right triangle. And we're going to fall back to good old Pythagorean theorem here and use it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We can do a little bit of algebra here before we get started. What do we need to solve for? We need to solve for this c value right here, right? Labeled x on the diagram, but we need to solve for that. So how do we get to c from c squared? We can take the square root of it, can't we? If we do that on the right side of the equation, we have to do the same thing on the left side, and so we're going to end up with the square root of c squared, which is c, is equal to the square root of these other two sides added together, a squared plus b squared. And if we bring over our values, let's do that a little better. If we bring over our values, we have c is equal to the square root of, let's see, either one of these can be a or b. Let's do the square root of 15.5 squared plus 25 squared. Let me get rid of a little bit of information here that we just to make ourselves a little more room. So we have c is equal to the square root of 15.5 squared. What's that going to be? That's going to equal 240.5 if we punch that into our calculator. 25 squared is 625. So now we have c is equal to the square root of 865.25. And using the square root function on our calculator, we can determine that the square root of 865.25 is equal to 29.411, etc. We want this rounded up here, don't we? Round your answer to one decimal place. That's always an important thing. Look to the problem to see what we want the answer rounded to one decimal place, and that's going to be equal to 29.4. And what are our units here? We have feet and feet, so our answer is in feet. So the slant distance from the building out to the parking space along this hypotenuse of the triangle formed by the elevation and the travel distance from left to right is going to be 29.4 feet. I hope that's helpful.